thank you for coming. So first of all, can you spell your last name?
Sommerer, Sommerer.
And then your first name?
George, George.
And just your middle initial.
J.
What year were you born?
1949.
Where did you live and when you came part of the and where did you live when you came part of the military?
I've lived my whole life in Jefferson City, Missouri, rural, Honey Creek, and I went in 1969.
What branch of service were you?
U.S. Navy.
Okay. So with that, were you like, what were you classified as? I guess is how there's.
Well, there's a couple different things. You know, you got your pay rank and then your rating, what actual job you did. So you're a E1 when you go in, which is like a recruit, and you move up the scale. You go to a seaman, and then you go to then what you call petty officer, third class, and then second class. That's your pay grade then. My actual job, I was a OT, which is Ocean Systems Technician, and it was actually kind of a cover story for us because we had secret clearances. So we told them that we was in oceanographic research, but we actually tracked the Russian ballistic missile submarines that set off our coast. That was our job.
Awesome.
So,
How did you get into the service? Did you volunteer or draft?
I volunteered, but it was during the draft. If I hadn't volunteered, I'd have been in the Army probably within a month. I had my draft notice in the mail by the time I had signed up for the Navy. And actually a friend of mine kind of talked me into it, so I'm glad he did.
Dang,
So.
yeah. When did you first start your service?
In September of 1969.
So you volunteered and you said your friend did. Was there like a certain reason why like he got you into it?
Yeah, and then they had a buddy system. You know, you go on and you were supposed to stay together, but we stayed together during boot camp, and then that was it, and we separated then. So probably a big thing back then was if we got drafted, we was pretty sure we was going to go to Vietnam, and that was a pretty divisive time in our history.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a very pleasant place to be, so I felt fortunate I didn't have to go there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
did you like your job when you went over to the coast and did that?
Definitely. I was on, well, by the water. I was never on a ship. We done all our work from shore stations, but I was always on a beach somewhere. So.
That had to be fun. Yeah. It's right there.
Sure. Where was basic training at?
Basic training was at Great Lakes, Illinois, which is north of Chicago. And at that time we had 3 places you could go to basic there, or San Diego, or Orlando, Florida. So, but they didn't choose it. You had to go where they sent you. You couldn't choose it.
Where were you sent after basics for advanced training?
Okay, for basic, I went back to Great Lakes for basic electricity school. I was up there another 2 months, 2.5 months, and I was sent to Key West, Florida. So I left up there about the 20th of January, and it was like 10 below, and it was 80 degrees when I got to Key West. So I said, thank you, Lord, very much. But I was sent, actually I was picked to be for a sonar technician, and then they picked so many out of that group to be in the job I was in. So I got picked for that when I got in with this specialized school was in Key West.
Did you ever get like sent out of country? Ever?
Not in a foreign. I was on Midway Island for a year, which is you know, on past Hawaii.
Right.
And then I was in the Caribbean for my last 6 months.
Gotcha.
Grand Turks and Caicos.
Okay.
So.
What was your job before you went to the military?
I worked at Bonhoeffer Press for a little over 2 years, and hey, there's Coach Campbell. And but I went back there, so I was there 46 years with my service time included. So.
Where did you begin your military service after advanced training?
After advanced, my first station was Pacific Beach, Washington, state of Washington, right on the coast.
What was happening in the world when you were in the military, like 9/11 or?
Yeah, well, Vietnam was really big thing, very divisive for our country. And we was losing about close to 100 guys a week at that time.
Oh, wow.
And that was the big issue. And there was like the Black Panthers. I don't know if y'all ever heard the study of that. That was some of the big things going on.
Who was like president? I can't remember.
Yeah, in '69, Mr. Nixon,
Okay.
yeah, was president. And you know, the '60s was a pretty turmoil. You know, we lost a president was killed, and Martin Luther King was killed, and Kennedy's brother was in. You know, it was a very violent time through the '60s. That was a hippie generation.
How long did you serve in the military?
4 years active, and then 2 years you do another inactive. You don't do anything after. But yeah, 4 years.
Would you have liked to serve more, or like were you good with the 4 years?
Did I wasn't
Would you have liked to serve more? Like, would you have liked to done more
No,
years?
no, I was ready to get out. Yeah, I was like it was good to come back home.
But,
Yeah, but we were offered in my job, you know, at that time, that was considered a critical rating, so we would have got we'd had to go 6 years, but you got a $10,000 bonus. So, you know, to try to get you to stay.
right.
What was the reason for you to get out?
Probably 4 years was enough, and just to get back to where I grew up. And
If you served during time of war, what engagements can you remember?
yeah, well, it was during definitely war, but I didn't have to go there. Because like I said, the Vietnam thing was, you know, and another thing, it was Kent State. Remember the Kent State shootings?
Oh,
That
yeah.
that was all in that time period there, just a very divisive time in our country.
Okay, interesting. What qualities do you believe you carried from the military to where you are today?
Respect, you know, for authority, and to know that people in authority have a tough job, you know, because you have to deal with so many different people. You know, that was probably my eye-opener, all the different folks, you know, we just come from a country place, and to see all the different type of people you have to deal with. So that was a big thing.
Do you, because you come from, I know you come from a Christian family. Was your faith ever like altered or strengthened while in time, or?
I think probably you appreciate your family a lot more, you know, because you're away from them so much.
Right.
As far as the faith, I mean, I think that stayed pretty constant.
That's good. What are your most enduring memories of your time in service?
Well, my greatest joy was making a lifelong friend from Wisconsin. You know, you probably heard us talking about going. We were just up there last month, and he was just retired, so we went up and surprised him. But that would be, and the travel. I was at some really nice places, and the beaches at Midway. We got to go to Hawaii once a month when I was there, and then when I was in the Caribbean, that was pretty nice down there too.
That's awesome.
So the places I've been kind of put things in my mind to take my family on vacation.
Right.
So the travel part was really great.
What was probably like your worst thing that you didn't enjoy about it?
Probably initially I never took, in high school, general math I never took algebra, and when I got into electronics and electricity part of it, I really struggled with, I had to go to night school for a couple weeks just to catch up on that part. So that part of the school was kind of the biggest challenge. It was pretty tough there for a few weeks, you know, not know if he was going to make it. And then,
Right.
So that I would say just being away from home initially.
What about the basic training? Was it, because I know like navies are like the top, so was it like pretty hard?
Yeah, well, ours was more educational
Okay.
in the classroom than physical, like your Army and Marines.
Right.
You know, we didn't do a whole lot. I mean, we done physical fitness stuff, but you know, we didn't crawl through the mud pits and all that stuff. We just shot a gun one time, but we done firefighting school, which, you know, if you went on a ship, that was very important. But it was hard to stay awake in them classes because you was up at 5, and if somebody fell asleep, you got usually water poured on you.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang. Was there ever a doubt that you like couldn't do it or weren't gonna make it?
No, I don't think so. You know, a little bit when I was going through that initial school was, but other than that, it went pretty good.
That's good. That's good. Do you ever want to get back together when the people you serve, do you ever want to get like back together with people you served with?
Well,
I know you
definitely,
said
yeah.
that friend.
For him, I have been in contact with a few other ones, but not over the last 20 years. So, but I do have the one lifelong friend.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. What about so you served over anything with I know you said you were tracking missiles and stuff.
Submarines.
Yeah.
Yep.
How was that? Like, I mean, elaborate on it? Or?
Yeah, that the information, it was called a SOSA system.
Mm-hmm.
They developed it, right after the Korean War, probably in the early to mid-50s.
Mm-hmm.
And what they done it for initially was to kind of look out and see if there was a whole bunch of submarines coming at us, because you can't see them from the top. And then as the technology evolved, the nuclear submarines ran real deep, and especially the ballistic missile ones.
Mm-hmm.
So we was able to track them, and the information comes in. It's like listening devices that's set in the ocean. Like we had 5 stations up and down. I'm talking about the West Coast,
Mm-hmm.
and we had one in Hawaii, Midway, Guam, and then in Alaska. And just how the system works, anything that makes a repetitious sound, like propeller or the big motors on the subs to run the electricity and stuff, those things will make a unique, it was something like, you've seen like an earthquake, that thing, when
Mm-hmm.
we had those electronic things,
Okay.
and then it registered a electronic signal on there. So over time, you learned what that was, and then we had bearings, so we could cross-fix and we'd know exactly where they were. That way we could keep one of our fast attack submarines close by in case something ever happened, we would take them out.
Did something ever happen? I mean,
No, luckily.
did it ever come close to even?
There was one in 1968. It was what they call a rogue submarine. Part of their, I don't know what you call their Secret Service people over there, but they went on and took one of them over. And their idea was that they wanted to start a war between us and China. They was going to try to make it look like China done it, but it was actually the Russians. And they actually fired it, but it blew up on them north of Hawaii. And later on, there was just a year after, there was y'all heard of Howard Hughes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he developed a big boat named the Glomar Challenger. With that thing done, they made it look like they was mining and doing stuff like they went down and retrieved that submarine off the floor that blew up, and that way they could study it. But that would have succeeded. They was going to fire it in Hawaii, and
Right.
I don't know if you ever read what a nuclear weapon, just one of them, would do.
Right.
Wouldn't have been good.
I know.
So that's the only thing I know that happened. Now, there are probably other times, but that was probably one of the major ones.
Especially like when you were in there, nothing really.
No.
That was good. That was probably good. Is there anything like else that happened or stood out from?
Probably just with that situation there, you all studied about detente, when Henry Kissinger started to talk with the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of felt that incident is what propelled the superpowers to, hey, look what just about happened, we better start talking here.
Right.
And that's kind of when they had agreements to start reducing some of the nuclear weapons and whatnot.
Okay.
So that was kind of a major thing, good thing to come out of that.
Do you think anything that happened with like the Russians and stuff influenced the Vietnam War? Like anything with that?
I don't think so. That was called the domino theory. They was worried about if one of those countries would fall, the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a lot of missteps, I think. I think we had early indications that it was kind of unwinnable, but you all probably know a lot of things political go into everything.
Oh yeah.
So it was such a divisive war.
Are you glad that you definitely went and?
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, it's an eye opener. I think you understand a little bit how tough some of the decisions are that our leaders have to make. That
Right.
a lot of them is it's life and death. I mean, it can go one way or the other.
Right. Does like you going and serving affect your life today, like at all?
You mean serving?
Like when you went and served, does that still have any effect on you today? Like.
Yeah, you kind of compare the you know, the things that happen in the world, especially military, you know, that you
Right.
kind of understand, I think, a little more some of the decisions they make and don't make or whatever.
Probably with the political world too, you know, it's probably
Yeah.
like a,
Yeah, it's a big balance there to try to make those decisions one way or
Right.
the other.
right. Any other questions?
Amen.
Well, thank you for your service, obviously. and
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you for coming in. and
No
doing
problem, appreciate it.
that. Yeah.